When it comes to your kitchen waste, have you ever thought that there should be an easy way to figure out which items you can compost and which ones you can't? Well, then you will really enjoy today's episode with Bálint Kőrösi from Can I Compost It. You will learn how being frustrated with the Google results about composting triggered him to start his own web app.
I was quite frustrated with Google results when it came to composting because everyone is on the content treadmill. You have to churn out 2,000 word long articles just to answer one question because it ranks better in Google. And it was just so frustrating to digging through all the find that little answer. And I thought that there must be a better way to do this.
How early traffic and feedback from Reddit users helped him to improve his composting app.
It went a bit viral. So I think about 12,000 people came onto the site in 2-3 days. That was great because I knew that I was onto something. And I got so much feedback on Reddit and I started building the features.
And how he wants to enable his users to quickly see whether they can compost something based on their camera input.
The vision is to give you the fastest way to identify if something is compostable around your house. End of story. Now, currently it's text-based, you have to type it in, but my original idea was that what if I could take a picture and then the app would just tell me that thing is compostable, that thing is not, that may be compostable, and then you wouldn't even have to type. You could just use current technology, snap a photo, and that's it.
Hello and welcome to the Impactful Ninja Show. I'm your host, Dennis Kamprad, and today we're joined by Bálint Kőrösi from Can I Compost It. Bálint, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? Hi.
Well, super happy having you. I've seen a little bit about Can I Compost It already, but let's take it one step back and for all our viewers, what is Can I Compost It before we jump into the whole podcast?
It's a small web app that I developed. It's basically the fastest way to find out if something can go into your composting bin or not around the house. And that's it. That's just a small web app that helps to be a bit more eco-conscious.
So basically, if I want to figure out, I have something, I was trying to figure out, can I compost it or not? I go to the web app, Can I compost it? I type in what I'm looking for and I'll get a direct answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not always black and white, but
I will get an answer and then I can take it from there basically. Awesome. Now let's take a step back. Before you started Can I Compost It, what's your background? What did you do beforehand?
I've been working online for 15 years and basically working in the language learning industry and managing online businesses in the language learning industry. And my main specialty is email marketing. This is what I do for a living.
So basically you already had some background with like doing things online. Email marketing probably might come in handy as well when it comes to basically marketing your tool. And along that journey, was there any specific problem you encountered, like anything that kind of triggered you in the first place to basically think about what you're doing now?
Yeah, I was quite frustrated with Google results when it came to composting because everyone is on the content treadmill. You have to churn out 2,000 word long articles just to answer one question because then it ranks better in Google. And it was just so frustrating to digging through all the forgive my French, to find that little answer. And then I thought that there must be a better way to do this. And Can I Compost It was born out of frustration, you can say that. And there was a second reason. I have a programmer background and that programming background, but I haven't really worked as a developer. And I wanted to learn a new JavaScript framework. And I thought that why not do both? And then I started learning that framework. And with that, I created Can I Compost It.
So basically it was the frustration for, I assume when you Googled for some things about composting, that you were just like finding like long articles that didn't really give you a clear answer. And the second part is like with your background as well, that you had the ability, one, to build something on your own, but then also the additional challenge to learn something new and build something new and basically combine these two things.
Exactly. Yeah. So best of both worlds, I guess.
That's super exciting. Like when you're sharing the background or how you started, because that's also how I started Impactful Ninja. I was super frustrated with basically the results from Googling. And I was like, what? That's just like sometimes just plain wrong or sometimes there were no results. And I was like, wow. A lot of these things, especially when it comes to like sustainable living, like with the composting, what you're doing, but then also climate action, ethical living, there's just not enough like high quality researched articles out there, or just like the direct answers that you just want to know to, well, basically make a direct positive impact as well based on that.
Exactly. And I guess it's going to be even worse with the AI development and even more content will be brought on. And I don't know how that good will be.
Yeah, it's a slight tangent because I tried out like what happens if I just ask my questions there and I chose wrong. And then I learned about the term like AI hallucinations, where they basically just make stuff up based on the highest probability what kind of words could come next. So it's that's an interesting part. But let's jump back to your story, because that's a more interesting one even. When it comes to the concrete starting point, so you already mentioned like you saw the problem that you had and figure out probably more people would have it as well. You have the developer background. You wanted to learn like a new language, a program language, or basically use it. What was the concrete first step then for you, and how long did it roughly take you from seeing this issue and getting started?
That must have been 4 or 5 years ago when I had this idea. Wow. But then I took the first step. I coded the prototype in a day or two in JavaScript, and it worked with sample data, and I left it for 4 years. And that's not very impactful, but last August, so exactly a year ago, I thought that I would learn this new framework, and Can I Compost It would have been a great project for that. And so I took the first step last August, and I started building, because it joined a community called Small Bets by Daniel Vassallo. It teaches that, that how we are taught that, you have to go on your most impactful idea and you have to pursue your passion, just that one thing. Now, the Small Bets is the complete opposite of this. So basically have as many ideas as you can, try them, see what sticks, and then just manage those. And so I thought that this would be a nice project for that, because who knows what can come out of this. So I coded up the new design and then put it up on Reddit. And amazingly, the moderators allowed me to actually do that. It's like a promotion. And because I think that they thought that I'm so pathetically bad at, engaging on Reddit that they said, yes, go ahead. And it took off, and it went a bit viral. So I think about 10, 12,000 people came onto the site in 2-3 days. And that was great, because I knew that I was onto something. And I saw comments like on the Reddit thread that one lady from, I don't know, Oklahoma or somewhere, she goes, I'm just going to buy a tablet for this specific web app that I will hang in the kitchen so that I know that it's like, that's pretty cool. Someone thinks that your app is so cool. And I knew at that time, I said, okay, pretty cool. So, and I got so much feedback on Reddit, and I started building the features, and I designed a new design, and I got ideas from Twitter. And so this is roughly how it got started. And then after Reddit got a bit stalled, because I didn't have an idea how to grow it. And as you probably know, the niche is quite crowded. And my background was in SEO. So I thought that why not go into that direction? But for that, you'd need more content, which is against I'd like to see. But I can't deny that this is something that has to be done. So I started digging and researching each item, each composting item, and then, expanding the item list and the descriptions of the items. And traffic started to trickle in from Google. And we are up to 1,500, 2,000 visitors a month at this point, so a year in. So it's definitely not an overnight success.
No, but after a year, I think that's not too bad. Also from kind of like before we go on, there's like so many nice tangents as well. Just some background for us. I think for the first 8-9 months, there was pretty much no traffic for us coming through as well. It's just super slow start, and then it just basically takes off eventually. I like the point as well about you mentioning like taking a small bet instead of just focusing like, wow, that has to be like the everything. And if that doesn't work, I'll be devastated. It's more like, well, let's place a few small bets and let's see which one works out and follow this. Quite happy that that's the one that seems to be getting some traction. And you also had the unique opportunity with Reddit and with Twitter to get a lot of feedback on. Yet for, let's say for a couple of years, you had already like the first MVP, improved it a little. And then with all the feedback, probably taking it massively forward.
Yeah, definitely. And the feedback and ideas from Reddit and Twitter, they were so good. I would have never ever thought about those features and ideas. And it's so cool when people come together without any monetizable money incentives just to make something cool. And it's definitely something that is close to my heart.
Nice. What's your favorite feedback that you've gotten so far for like one or like your favorite feature that you developed based on the feedback you've gotten?
Oh, you put me on the spot. I have to think about that.
Don't worry, we can also come back to that later. The other point that you mentioned is kind of the mix between giving like an answer directly to people who are searching for something, but then also from the SEO part, like helping search engines basically from a technical term better understand instead of just like a yes or no, what it's all about and helping you rank. I checked your site as well, and it seems like it's quite a nice combination between like this super massive, like here's your answer, yes, no, maybe, and then providing some details below.
I tried to find a middle ground. This is how Google at this point works, so it needs some context to understand what's your site or app about. But then I want to make the user experience the smoothest, the fastest, the best. So this is why everything's big and bold and yes, no, maybe, read on, and that's it. Because I think simplicity is very much undervalued these days. And I like simplicity.
Yeah. And you also have like a nice kind of an avatar that you can picture yourself. Like whenever you develop something new, there's this lady from the States with the iPad in the kitchen. It's like, oh, would that help her or not?
Exactly. It brings more like a human touch to the development process. And that's definitely good. I've been working from home for 15 years and it can get lonely. So having a bit more human interactivity is good.
That's the beauty about just building having a small community or connection with people. I see that with just like starting an email list and then getting like all the feedback, which is just super lovely, or just like kind of connecting with you now.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a complete random event because I was checking backlinks for the site and I saw one from Impactful Ninja and it's like, okay, what is that site? It's definitely not a spam site. Went there and it's like, okay, they're linking to me. Oh, yay. So I reached out to thank you for that. And this is how we got together.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
No, I like it as well. Because in the end, we talked a little bit before the recording. Doesn't matter from like how big or how small something it is you're creating. In the end, like if you're making a positive impact in one way or the other, if that's the purpose behind, then it's just so easy, like awesome to connect, and I really love the stories. Also,
I agree.
That you don't have to be like, when it comes to imposter syndrome and everything else, that you don't have to be like a full-on expert to get something started. As long as you're able to create helpful content for people and basically enable people to make a positive change based on your content, then that's already like an amazing step forward.
I struggled with imposter syndrome at the beginning, especially with Reddit, because they can tear you down really bad. So I reached out to an expert on Reddit, and I asked him to check a couple of items. He says, no, it's pretty cool. It works. It checks out. So it's all good. And that was helpful to alleviate the fears of my imposter syndrome. Since then, I've learned a ton about composting, but I'm definitely not an expert.
I mean, eventually we'll become an expert. There's no question about that. Yeah. And probably if you speak to people about it and you share your knowledge, they will already perceive you as an expert as well. With was like 400 plus items that you've already researched and put up.
Yeah, it's close to 450 something. Yeah. And the funny thing, when I started out, it was like 200. And so one of the first features, okay, here's the answer to your previous question. What's my favorite? So that was the recommendation. So if there's nothing on the database, you can recommend that item and I get an email about it. I research it and I put it into the database. So it basically just became some sort of community thing. And so it wasn't even half of this size when I started out. And so most of the recommendation came from people who actually use that stuff. Oh, it's not there. So let's have it on.
That's also a beautiful sign that, well, it's a bad sign for when they're Googling if they can compost the item or not. No matter if they firstly went to your page or first they Googled, they ended up on your page. And I was like, well, they perceive you as the authority or as the expert and they want the answer from you. So that's the beautiful part about that as well.
And I'm humbled by that.
Nice. When you think about your journey so far, you mentioned that you started like 4 or 5 years ago with the idea and then the first prototype came out quite early. Yeah. Would you say that you stalled for such a long time and didn't develop it that much because of the feeling being like kind of an imposter? Or was that basically because of different priorities or anything else?
I wouldn't say it was because I felt an imposter syndrome. It was more like I had other things going on in my life. But the back burner in my mind, it was always there, like, simmering, the idea. And I like to work in bursts. So when something is coming on, then I'm going all in on that. In a couple of weeks, I flesh it out. I can't just do, half an hour a day for months. That's too boring. And I felt the inspiration because of the Small Bets community. Then I jumped on the idea. I knew myself that much that I had to do it in one go. Otherwise, I just lose steam and then wouldn't go anywhere. So that's how it worked.
Like a full-on development sprint.
I can say that.
So far, what have been the biggest challenges for you on the way? The development part? I would have expected you to say like growing the platform with SEO content, actually.
I had some help, both in forms of people and also like AI. I can't deny that. But these JavaScript frameworks are tricky to work with. I'm using Nuxt.js, which is a very niche framework with a smaller community. So support and documentation isn't as good. And when I hit a wall and I had nowhere to turn, and that was the frustrating part. And I wanted to move fast, but I couldn't because I wasn't good enough a developer. And so that was definitely something that I struggled with. But lots of coffee, pushing through and tweaking and cursing, but I got through them.
Yeah. And now I assume you must be a much better programmer as well than when you started out.
Yeah, so that 2 birds with 1 stone seems to be a good approach for me. So if Can I Compost It didn't take off, at least I would have had the experience from, learning a new framework.
Nice. Thinking about the future a little bit from kind of what you've achieved so far, where you are now, and What are your plans for going forward with Can I Compost It?
I like Can I Compost It because it's very easy to state the vision. The vision is to give you the fastest way to identify if something is compostable around your house. End of story. Now, currently it's, text-based. You have to type it in. But my original idea was that what if I could take a picture and then the app would just tell me that thing is compostable, that thing is not, that may be compostable. And then you wouldn't even have to type. You could just, use current technology, snap a photo, and that's it. And I have the idea how to go about that. But unfortunately, this might get a bit too technical. I don't know if that's...
Let's try.
So, okay, sure. So what I wanted is a database of items that are compostable and a machine learning algorithm that can identify images at those items. And then I can just mesh them together into an app. But there's no machine learning algorithm API at this point that is good enough for that. I tried a couple of food APIs. They are not good enough. They don't recognize most of the items. But then I have a data scientist friend, and we got together, and he said that you could just, create your own data set and train your own machine learning algorithm on that whole thing, and then build the whole thing into a mobile app. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. That sounds like a full-time job for a couple of months, but yeah. So that's the idea. I don't know when I'll get there, but I know myself, and if the tools allow, I'll get there sometime.
So basically, to try to sum that like a little more basic terms. So what's happening out there so far? There's like all the AI data sets where you can also just put in pictures. They're not good enough yet with everything that you have in your database to identify on the picture which items there are, and then for you to enable you to link to your database so that they identify the items, you could link back to, each of these to compost it or not. And your approach then would be to say like, for these 450 plus items that you have in your data set, let's just say you grab one item at a time. You put a lot of different pictures in there. You train your own model with all of these pictures so that based on the pictures that you have, the model would be able to identify which of the items that would be from your database. And then the dream would be like in the future, someone can just take a picture of all of the things they want or don't want to compost. The AI is like, hey, I have all of these in my database. I know this could be this item, this could be something else. And then to be able to spit out a list. So like, these first three, you can compost it. The fourth one, which is blah, 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 you might not want to compost it. And the last two, definitely not. Something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. It is possible to do that. And it's exciting because I know it is possible. It would just take a lot of time, but it's exciting because I know I can get there.
It's probably the most exciting part when I would assume you don't train the model on like all of the items at once. But once you manage to train it on one and it consistently recognizes that one item, that might be super exciting.
Well, it's not a bad idea. So basically building a prototype within the app. Well,
and then just seeing how that can be executed at large scale.
Well, that's the other thing, because each time a user would take a picture, that has to be sent to a server to process that image and then sending them back. This costs money, and currently there's no money involved with Can I Compost It? So that would be something that I need to fund out of my own pocket. I don't know how much would that be, but at this point, I'm more excited about the technical challenges.
Nice. Before we go into the final part of getting some of the learnings from you, one idea, if some person finds what you're doing valuable enough to spend the money to buy an iPad, to put it in the kitchen, I'm pretty sure there might be some people who would be happy to support you so that something like this would be possible in the future, just as some kind of reframing. With that being said, about Can I Compost It? Is there anything that we didn't have the chance yet to speak about that you would have liked to share in addition?
Not really. Just if people like it, use it and spread the word. If your website put a link on it, and that would help the site to spread. But that's about it. It's a love project.
Sweet. I like that. We'll have links in the show notes and also on screen. Now let's take a jump to the basic next part. When you reflect about like your personal life and, well, not just composting, but everything beyond as well, since you started working on Can I Compost It and since you intensified your work, what would you say has changed in your personal life based on the learnings?
I'm definitely more eco-conscious because now my family and my friends come to me that, can I put this in the compost bin? I find it funny. Hey, there's a great app for that. Check it on. Check it. But I think I got a bit more conscious about what I throw in the bin. And that's good enough for now. I mean, municipal waste was reduced by almost half, but not throwing kitchen scraps and whatnot into the bin and trash can, sorry. And the fact that now my friend's asking about this is definitely a good sign. And then they started doing that. And now they know that I like to talk about this. And so when I go over to their house and then talk about this kind of stuff, then I know that this slowly spreads. And it's a good feeling to have some sort of tangible impact because, as I said, I've been working online for 15 years, which is very abstract. It never ends. It's very meta. But then when you see something tangible, like physically putting something in the compost, I mean, that is much closer to impact. I don't know.
No, it's beautiful. One of the first steps is always creating awareness. So what you don't know, you just don't know and can't change to the better.
Exactly.
And it seems like you're doing quite a bit of that, not just for yourself, but then also for your friends group and those around you.
Yeah.
They perceive you as an expert as well, how it seems. And you're creating a direct positive impact that you can see with those and that you cannot see with the ones using Can I Compost It?
Yeah, that's a nice way to phrase it.
Now, for the final question, if you had one tip to share with our audience on how to become more impactful, what would be your number one tip?
The biggest impact that I had in the last 2 years on my personal life in being mindful was because I took up martial arts, namely Kyokushin karate. I'll step back a bit. So in order to be impactful, to me, that means that I'm on top of my game, mentally, physically. I can only have impact if I'm at my best. And practicing martial arts, it brought out a lot of good in me. And not only the strength side, the physical side, we have world-class instructor and his thoughts and how he leads and how he, leads the classes is really something that I learned a lot from, even at age 40. And I can only recommend people to pick up martial arts because I like to think about it because the feedback loop is very short. So you learn fastest when the feedback loop is short. And when you get punched in the face, that's a very short feedback. I'm half joking, but really, you immediately feel the impact of your action. Plus, you get strong. And, self-defense is definitely something that can't hurt.
Nice. Plus, your attention has always to be there, no? Otherwise, you literally get punched in the face. Well, thanks. Thanks so much for joining us today, Bálint. All the best with Can I Compost It?
Thank you.
I really like the work of love of the small bet you're taking. Let's see if it develops into a bigger bet in the future. And well, thanks for being here with us.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
My pleasure. And to everyone else, thanks for joining us as well and stay impactful.